Hey everybody, I'm here with Ben from Soilent Green. How's it going, man?
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing really well. And so, right now you're on a cross-country Canada tour in the dead of winter, and so I imagine it's pretty cold. How's it been so far?
It's been pretty rough, man, but the shows have been really good, really good. I mean, it's kind of our first time in a lot of it. The only time we recently came in is Toronto for the first time ever in the history of the band, like this summer with Death Clock, but you know, everything's been really amazing so far, man. Especially, having the three bands that are on the package. It kind of beefens it up, makes it more of a extreme kind of package,
That's
kind of
awesome.
different.
And so, like, when you come up to Canada and you know that it's going to be cold, what preparations do you make beforehand? Is there, like, do you put in the van, like, a little heater or a bunch of extra blankets or that sort of thing? How does the band compensate for that?
I'd been up here before, and some of the other guys hadn't. And I just told them, just pack long johns, socks, whatever, a couple of jackets, anything like a scarf, something, anything, Because some nights when we're loading, we put these things over our faces. It makes you look like ninjas, but it helps. It's cool, and it's like the locals are laughing at us because they're so used to it. But we're all from the South. We don't really get that much.
It's very well known that the band is from New Orleans, and that you experienced the disaster of Hurricane Katrina. And I was wondering, from a musician's perspective of that event, how did the music community, I guess, deal with it and respond? Like, how did that play out? Do you think you would take me back to that situation and explain a little bit?
We were torn for the record Confrontation at the time. We were actually out when it actually hit New Orleans. And then we kind of stayed out and did shows for like 2 weeks afterwards because we knew we couldn't go home yet. Because they kind of locked everybody out the city and they wouldn't let anybody in until things got right. And then they allowed people, then there was a break where they allowed people in for like a week to come check everything out and then get back out so they could start clearing out the area and everything. And so we did that. And so it kind of pushed things off. We were out of a practice room until, it was like, August, September, October, November, December. It was like 5 months, because the building that all the bands practiced in, the whole bottom floors got flooded, and then they wouldn't let anyone in the buildings until they could clear everything out and then have people come in with proper ID, just so any old schmuck couldn't just roll in and steal somebody's equipment and then just take off. So you had to come and provide all this information, and they let you go in there and pull everything out, and then no one had any rooms until they sorted everything out in that building, and then you can go back and practice in there. But they put on shows when things were starting to get built up. Like they had little bars and stuff, and they had generators powering the equipment and stuff. So everything was cycling. And when the shows were at the regular clubs again, you saw more people come out. Almost like the scene kind of grew a little tighter, and more people came to the shows to the point of, if this ever happens and the city's gone, we won't have it. So we might as well jump on it now and take advantage of it. And then. We had this all ages venue there. It used to be called Cypress Hall, but they changed the name to the High Ground. And it's evolved. We never had an all ages place there, but now there's an all ages venue and it has tons of shows, and it's awesome.
Great.
Yeah. So, and it was like there were some bands that broke up, because certain members moved here and there, and then members of those bands that broke up formed newer bands, or other bands that we're still together, left. Like I have another band, and we left the area for a while and worked on material, and then came back home when things were all right. So it was negative, but yet it was positive because people took the negative aspect of it and made it into something positive. Like, let's jam, let's get together, let's write music, let's do things since we can't do anything, and that's our outlet. Why don't we just go ahead and do what we got to do music-wise and forget about what's going on here? You can't really forget about it, but when you're in that room or whatever, in a garage or in a space with all those dudes and you're jamming for up to 3 hours, everything outside of you is gone while you're in there. So it's like, it's a getaway for a lot of people, and which it's a great thing, especially in that situation. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I think there's something kind of incredible when you mentioned that people were still putting on shows with just generators, and it kind of shows, I guess, the human spirit.
Yeah.
In the sense that even in tragedy, even in disaster, people will take a negative situation and bring positives out of it. And as you mentioned before, exactly that. And so it's easy to say that the band has been through quite a few struggles and has its hard times. And so how do you, I guess, look at a negative situation and turn it into a positive light and bring something good out of something bad?
That's actually a good question. I never really stopped to like think about it, because always just whenever something happened, you know, on a personal level or within the whole as a band, I just kind of looked at it as like a speed bump in life, in a sense, you know, or a little mountain or whatever. And that's like, okay, you know, where some people just, they confront something like that and then they're just like, that's it, it's done, you know.
They see it as a wall.
Yeah, they just totally. And I always saw it as a little thing, even though it might have been a hard struggle, you know. I mean, we were in an accident where I broke both legs, both ankles.
Are you serious?
I had like, yeah, I had like 9 surgeries, and I was in a wheelchair for a year, but I was like, I'm going to start playing again. You know, they told me I might not be able to walk. You know, they got to give you all the negatives, of course. And so I just, you know, I worked hard at everything to get back walking and everything. I mean, I'm not 100%, but I never will be, because once you break ankles, you know, you always have some kind of stupid joint problem, but it comes with age too, so. And, you know, it's just, that's just how personally I always looked at things like that. Like, it's never a wall. There's always some way around something, you know. There's always some way to achieve something because of a disaster or anything like that. You know, you can't let things stop you or slow you up. And that's just not the kind of person I am. You know, I think some people are like that and some people aren't. You know, and it's you know, and the fact too, because it's a band, and have everybody with you on that too is a key as well. Because if it's just you, it's hard to drag the whole force of them as well. So
like
once
a group mentality.
Huh?
A group mentality.
Yeah,
I guess, finding strength in numbers.
Because I mean, after the accident happened, and I was in a wheelchair. They were kind of questioning what's going to happen, you know. And I was just kind of like, well, at the moment, just let me have my time to get this situation right, and then we can go from there. Yeah. I was like, but I do need to take care of this first. And then from there we can sort it out. So I sorted myself out, and then from there I was like, all right, now let's move forward. It put a delay in us, you know, in a lot of ways, but, you know, that was just another step to kind of push forward as well. Because then it's like, well, I remember after the accident, I was in a chair, I was just watching bands stream by and do things and do all the things that I wanted to do. And I was like, man, this is going to be, you know, a year time is a lot of time in the music business to not be doing anything. You know, it's like so many bands out there. And I was watching so many bands doing everything that I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm going to get this straight, and we're going to get back, and we're going to tour and do everything that we got to do.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I think that didn't, I guess, down your spirit, and instead it just kind of motivated you more when you were able to do it. That's pretty incredible. And so, I guess through the struggle and through the hard times, how does that affect you musically? And when you're trying to construct a song and that sort of thing, do you think that, I guess, those struggles kind of reflect in your music and the way that you approach things, and with maybe even more passion and more devotion to the art?
I think they definitely, you know, maybe not even a conscious but subconscious levels, you know. It just sits in there and it works, you know. When I'm writing lyrics or things like that, or we're working on music together, I think it comes off because, too, like I said about the whole negative positive thing, you get in there as an escape. So it's almost like you get in the room, too, to escape those problems. And so it sits back there while you're in there, you know, having a good time and doing what you love. But then it still sits when you're putting the lyrics together and things like that, so it kind of works in the structure of the influence, you know. Not necessarily influence basically from that, but it's used as like a force to help influence you in a sense.
You've been touring since your most recent release, Collapse in the Presence of Conviction, and so I was wondering, over the past 5 albums, what made this one different? And I guess, how did you make this album, I guess, a step up from the past work that you've done?
That's you know, after like when you first put out a first record, you know, I'm not saying that we're not gung-ho anymore, but, you know, when you first do something in your first time and you put out your first release, you're gung-ho about it, and you're like, this is the shit, this is how it is. And then as you put records out, it's not that you lose the perspective, but you just kind of write for yourself in a way, and you never know what's going to come out or if people are going to appreciate. You know, you don't come to the point where we got to write this part and then this part and this part, so we feel for this crowd. Soilent doesn't write like that. It kind of writes innerly, like what do the members like, and how do we like things to flow. So it's really hard to say like that we attempted to do something better than we've done, because I don't think we ever really necessarily. I mean, we always looking to evolve internally, but we're never like looking to beat another record in a sense. You know, maybe in recording sound wise or anything like that. But every Soilent record has its own kind of feel to it, and it's kind of different. It has, you know, anything from blues parts to grind parts to like southern rock parts mixed with fucking grindcore. So it's real eclectic and everything. But I mean, it's hard because, you know, like when a band puts out a record that everybody likes, and then whenever they do other records, they're like, oh, that record's good, but it's never like this one. You know? Well, when we put out Soul Mouth Secrets, that was a record that a lot of people clung on to, and every record we put out, people were kind of like, this is a good record, but it's not Soul Mouth Secrets, but, you know, and they kept going. And it was kind of cool when we put this record out that people kind of said, wow, this one kind of meets up with Soul Mouth Secrets, which is cool. It's a cool feeling as a musician in the band, because it's like we didn't strive to like make the equal to that or anything. It just kind of fell into place in a sense.
That's great.
You know, so.
I think there's something to be said for, I guess, developing naturally as a band, and I guess in the genre that you're in, it's great that you have developed, I guess, this personal freedom when writing and recording albums and that sort of thing. And so, is it essential for a band to be able to, I guess, have that freedom and be able to let music flow naturally instead of it being, I guess, a very calculated process and being like, oh, well, this band did this, I can put it in there, and I guess
it has to go with the band, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally, if you let it free, then it's the best. But I'm sure everybody has their own formula on how they like to write things and put things together. So I think for every band, it would be kind of a different standard, you know. And everybody's influences are different as far as that goes, you know. Like a newer, younger band coming out, it's got different influences than we might have, you know, because we're older or whatever, you know. And I know they say age doesn't make a difference, but just because sometimes a younger person's never heard some of the older things that were in the extreme scene that are out now, you know. So it takes a little while for that to evolve. So it's, you know, like our evolution process. I mean, we've been through a cycle of members too, because we've been through a lot of different things. Members quit, members got killed, you know, things like that. So we've had some tragedies and things. But like Brian and Tommy have been in the band since day one, since '88.
Yeah.
And then I got in '94, and then Scott has been in for the last 2 records. So, and we've kind of cycled through a second guitar player, and then we came to a point where we just kept it one guitar player, you know. And it's, you get to this point too where it's, when you write as a musician and you have other people writing with you, when you start losing pieces, it's hard to kind of fill in that little missing spot until that person evolves into the band too as well. And we're lucky enough with like Scott that he fell into place. And sometimes you get a person where it's not that the person's bad or anything, or he's not that good of a musician. He just doesn't have that thing that falls into that spot to fill that little gap that you were missing. And you know, he's done a really good job. And when we lost the second guitarist again, it was like our 3rd or 4th time, we were just like, let's stay as 4. You know, it can work out. You know, we've done it before. There was times where the other guitar player broke his arm or whatever, and the other one just played without a second one. So we knew we could do it. It was just the fact of taking the step and just moving forward like that.
It's been such a pleasure.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much, man.